So, a few days ago, my wife was driving down the road and hit a tire retread while she was driving at night, so she couldn't see the tire on the road. And she was driving our 04 PT Cruiser, and it really messed the car up. So it bent the radiator, it broke the tabs off the transcooler, it bent the core support up really bad. Luckily the lower core support bolts in, and the upper core support was fine until I beat it to death because I wanted to drive it home. So I came to the junkyard. It's the LKQ in Mount Airy, formerly known as Crazy Ray's. So I came here, got a radiator, drove down to Virginia where the car was, patched it together in a Walmart parking lot and drove it home. So I guess I'm gonna kind of document me fixing it the wrong way, just to show you that, you know, you don't want to invest a lot of time and money. Well, you're going to invest your time, but you're not going to invest a lot of money into a car to try and fix it after, you know, like some type of accident. Because I bought this car for one of my really good friends for $200, and honestly, I bought it to steal the motor out of and put into another car, but it was in really good shape. So I decided to keep it, but you know, then this happens. So we'll see how this goes. So my personal favorite section of the junkyard, the Dodge section, because we have all the cars that I like for some stupid reason and I relate to for an even dumber reason. I like working on for probably the dumbest of reasons. So this 2004 PT Cruiser right here is the one that I not so gloriously stole the radiator out of for the other car. So I already pulled the upper core support earlier. I'm going to take that one with me. As you can see down here on the PT, the lower core support is bolted in. It's held with 2 bolts. There's 2 bolts over there, and then 2 bolts up there. So we'll see how this works out. I guess I also would like to mention that it's awfully hot out today. It's 89, it's humid, as you know, we're in Maryland and it's always humid here. So you know, one of the tips for the junkyard is always stay hydrated. Even during the winter, you can really sweat and then start to feel like shit because, you know, you're a dumbass and you didn't drink enough water. So luckily for us, when you pull the radiator of the PT Cruiser out correctly, you can save the transcooler. I don't really need it because mine still is holding transmission fluid and pressure, but those pesky little tabs are just riveted on. So I'm probably going to take the transcooler too, just to replace it. So hopefully I can stop using the zip ties I'm currently got on the transcooler holding it onto the core support. That's another good tip for the junkyard is to wear clothes that you don't give a fuck about, because they're going to get dirty, they're going to get stained. So luckily for me, I don't really give a fuck about any of my clothes because I buy everything from Walmart. And also, to make your experience a little bit easier, grab a floor mat from another car so you can have something nice to lay on, so you're just not laying on the dirt. So I got the transcooler, the upper core support, and the lower core support. Now I noticed a problem that it's a little bent, but the rest of it's straight. I looked at all the other ones and they all seem to be about the same fucked up. It's how they pick up the cars here. They use forklifts and pick them up under the front, so they fucking bend everything. But this one's the least bent out of the 4 I looked at, so that's what I'm going to work with. So like I said the other day, this one's a little bent, so I'm going to whack it with a hammer real quick and try and straighten it out some. So you can see that the transcooler is kind of bent, you know, while in comparison to the AC condenser. And then the whole fender lip is all, like the gap's all messed up on that side. And it's messed up really bad on this side. This is the side that kind of took the hit. So I'm hoping that when I pull the lower support out, you can see it's bent up a little bit there. Hopefully when I pull that out, it'll straighten everything else up. If not, it'll at least get me close. So looking here, you can see kind of what I had to do to get this thing in the car so I can drive it home. But I beat this around with a hammer. Actually, I think it was with adjustable pliers, because this isn't centered up in the hole because of where it ended up being on the bottom. You know, and like nothing's really lined up. Yeah, underneath here it kind of gives you a better idea of what happened, but you know, this is bent back and twisted, and I'll snap a couple pictures of it off the car. So the stand, like, this is the radiator mount, and it should be inside of this hole. And that's, you know, pushed back probably 2 inches on that side, and it's, you know, a good bit back on this side, but the whole thing's kind of sitting forward. So I'm hoping that when I pull this out, it'll just kind of square up everything where it should be. At least get it close so I can just, you know, have it looking normal from the outside again. So this is the old one I just pulled out of the car, and this is the new lower that I got from the junkyard car. So my plan is to try and use this one bolted up on the wrong way and try and bend it as I use a come along and some rope to pull the lower structure out. Alright, so with the lowers out, I put the new upper on. I'm kind of positioning it, but you can see when I get to it that, you know, everything's just not quite lining up. Like this lip's a little bit higher. You know, these bolts won't quite go where they need to go. This side's a little bit straighter. You know, like that side lines up better than this side does. But hopefully, you know, as I bend on the structure a little bit, it'll just get it closer where it needs to be. I just realized that this bolt hole's pretty far off and this one's pretty far off, but this car was straight that this came out of. So I'm just gonna bolt in those top 2 bolts. You can see, you know, that's not straight by far, and that one's still kind of off. I haven't done any pulling yet, so I figure I can put this in there. It'll give me a reference. So either this is gonna work out for me, or I'm gonna have a harsh learning lesson here soon. Well, I kind of regret not filming this, but I used some rope that I had left over from my old job. Harbor Freight winch. I tied it around the base there, and it pulled it out pretty good. And I'm surprised because, like, you know, the hood's starting to line up a little bit better. And I mean, I don't have the hood latch in, so, but you know, it's all starting to kind of line up a little bit better. Oh yeah, you can even see right here, down through here, that, you know, the structure's more so in the shape it needs to be. I'm going to cut those zip ties that are holding on the transcooler, and I think the radiator too at this point. I'm going to cut all those off and give it a little bit more of a pull and just kind of see where that puts things. I think I'm still going to have to rotate it a little bit like that. So I'm going to bolt on the bent one and kind of, you know, give it a little twist. I'm going to see if I can prop my phone up somewhere and do that, but this is going a lot better than I'd expected. This bolt hole almost exactly lines up. Just going to give this a little twist. And it's starting to look pretty good. gap's getting close to where it needs to be. Alright. And to release this winch, there's a little lever here you push up, pull it all the way back. And then there's another lever you got to pull up on, and you release the tension. So you lift up here, pull it all the way back, lift up over here, and let it go forward. It's a slow and arduous process. Sometimes it doesn't always work because, you know, it's from Harbor Freight, but it'll get you where you need to go. So from this angle, you can see now that's pretty straight going down, where it's still, you know, rather bent and twisted over here. So I'm going to repeat the process I did over here, but I can't really move the car, and now it's not exactly lined up. So I can't move the car because the radiator is being held up by the spare tire. So I'm going to try to figure something out. So I've neglected to mention it earlier, but I did figure out what to do about the radiator so I can move the car. I ended up tying the radiator to the upper core support and using a, I can't remember the name of the knot. It's some dumb shit I learned in Boy Scouts. But basically you tie a loop on the end of the rope and then run your rope back through it and tie it around it. So you can like tighten it down and it'll hold stuff in position. So I pretty much repeated the process for this side. It's not quite the same, but it's rather close. So I'm gonna close the hood here in a second and see if it lines up, and then I'm gonna start putting the new lower core support in and see what happens. All right, so I finally got the new lower core support in, and it's lining up along pretty okay over here. Right there, it's getting an issue. I have a little issue. The back bolt doesn't want to quite line up, so I took my winch and wrapped it around the core support here. I'm going to try and pull it and see if I can get the whole thing to twist. But I'm not sure how well it's going to work. It only needs to go, you know, maybe, you know, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So a few hours later and I'm all finished up. And I got the lower in there. It turns out when I pulled it, I actually pulled it too far outwards, and then I hadn't rotated it enough. So I ended up pulling it sideways. And I was gonna film it, but then I wanted to get done, so I ended up not. But yeah, that one's straight. This one's, I mean, it's a little crooked, but it fits, so I'm not really gonna worry about it. I might spray some paint on that so it doesn't go away as fast. But you know, the new upper lines up. I mean, it's all a hair off at this point, but honestly, for a $200 car, I don't really care. So I still got to put the rubber gasket back in that goes around the hood, but you can see now, I'll lower that side a little bit. I got the hood gap to mostly line up, but the car was in an accident and the hood's kind of bent, so it doesn't exactly line up. But I'm going to throw the hood latch back on and put the grill back in, and I'm going to call this good. So yeah, it's not quite right, but it's better than it was. I think on eBay, or I don't know, one of those vendors, they sell a there's a company that sells a $200 front end kit. It comes with a new grill, new bumper, new headlights, new fog lights. So I might do that. It'll end up being cheaper than buying from you know, the junkyard or something. But then I'll have to pick out a color. I'm not sure what the color to go with. If you have any suggestions, just let me know. After I stopped filming, I noticed right along here, along the fender, there's an old crease with a little rust on it, so this wasn't lining up perfectly before. So yeah, maybe I'll get a new fender for it while I'm at it, and just kind of try and straighten up the whole front end. But anyway, here we are. The front end's going back on, the grill's back on. Starting to look like a PT Cruiser again. So if you made it this far with watching without cringing too hard, thanks. Don't like or subscribe because the video is pretty much trash. But I do a lot of dumb shit with neons and my SRT swap LeBaron and whatever other, you know, pieces of trash I got in my yard. So I'm going to try and do some more semi-informative but mostly dumb videos eventually. So stay tuned, I hope.